Yes, welcome back to another episode of The Whistle Blows. Transfer window shut. Another damp squib of a transfer window, which we're going to analyse tonight. We got Billy here with me again. Billy, how are you, mate?
Yeah, all good, mate. Nice, quiet few days for Tottenham, in the transfer window. But obviously, the club keep on going, and the news keeps on rolling. Just another mad few days, as we'll get into in a minute. But yeah, real pleasure to be on with Ash, man. What a legend, and looking forward to getting into it, you guys.
Very good. And Ash, lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us. We thought we couldn't do a squad analysis after the transfer window without you, Ash. And yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on. So thank you for joining us, mate. How are you?
Big up, man. Listen, love as always, man. Listen, we're one family right now, and we're going through a messy divorce. It feels like the oldest brother is calling out, you know, what's going on with the family. Dad's moving like Epstein. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. It's a lot going on right now. But it's same Tottenham, just different day. That's all I can say, really. I'm not too surprised.
And I think Epstein's had a better few days than us, hasn't he, at the moment? To be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
I mean it's a depressing time to be a Tottenham fan, but I think Ash, we've said a number of times when we've been on shows together on Last Word and Spurs and things, we need the therapy, mate, don't we? And we're going to try and give some viewers some therapy tonight. But yeah, just a bit of admin before we start. Please get over to the guys at Spurs Kings TV.
Oh, yeah.
Ash's channel, subscribe, like his content, brilliant content over there. So please make sure you do that. And I'm going to keep bringing that up to make sure that people subscribe. And then from us, look, the support has been absolutely amazing so far. Massively appreciate everyone for all of the likes, comments, subscriptions, and we are delighted to announce that we are now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for anyone that prefers to not see our ugly mugs and wants to listen to the audio version. And because of all of the support on YouTube, we are now at the stage where we can accept super chats and members and all of that jazz. So if anyone wants to help shape the convo, please feel free to super chat, and it also pays for a pint for me and Bill. So yeah, really appreciate that. But yeah, look, I think if it wasn't enough that our director of football left at the start of the window, we now have the news that the club captain wants to leave at the end of the window. This is just an absolute shambles again, Bill, isn't it?
Yeah, and I know, preaching to the converted here, but let me just read it for everyone that hasn't seen. I'm sure everybody has, though. So yesterday, 7 o'clock ish, as soon as the window's shut, and I think you can read into that what you want, but great effort. This is what Romero said on Instagram. Great effort from all my teammates yesterday. They were incredible. I wanted to be available to help them even though I wasn't feeling well, especially since we only had 11 players available. Unbelievable, but true and disgraceful, with a little facepalm emoji there, and that dropped at the end of the window. Then today, Gaston Edel. Now, if you don't know Gaston Edel, he has been at the forefront of Romero news quite often. He's the guy that did an interview at White Hart Lane with Romero. He's the guy that dropped a couple of news pieces about Romero using the Argentinian doctors instead of the Tottenham doctors. He's the guy that dropped some of Romero's injury news. I think it's safe to assume that this guy is almost like a mouthpiece for Romero. Certainly has good connections with him. And then this drops. Cuti Romero has interest from La Liga in Spain and another league as well. He already had plenty of interest in the previous transfer window. They came very close to making a formal offer. He is going to leave Tottenham in the next transfer window in June. So the club captain comes out, also liked by a few of the players as well. Solanke, Gallagher, Danso, Porro, Maddison, and a few more. Ash, what does this mean for the football club at the moment? Like, what do you think this is a big bombshell for the club at the moment?
Yeah, it is a big bombshell because they warned him already to say, don't do it, basically. And he's done it again. So he's basically saying, F you. And I look at it as that he's fed up. He's probably had promises assured to him because he signed a new contract coming into the season. He knew, obviously, the new manager who was coming in, he was going to be made captain. And then on top of that, he was probably assured some promises. And I'm assuming he wanted, players to come in. And then maybe there might have been something in the contract to say that he's allowed to speak out if these things are broken or promises are broken. I don't know. I'm just assuming here. But clearly he's unhappy. Clearly they've gone against the word, and then he's gone out and he's spoken to Bibby's agent, and he said, look, these guys they've done it again. You know, they've gone against their word, put the feelers out. I'm not happy. And it's interesting because, you know, Romero came out under Angie, did it. Then he did it again. I think it was his third time coming out, like since he's been in a short space of time at the club. He's called out fractions of the board. So one was when Levy was here, I think, and then two was when Levy wasn't. So it's listen. It's interesting because I look at it as a whistleblower, you know. No pun intended, but sometimes you need it, bro. Like you need, because you don't know what's going on. Everything is all hearsay, and when you hear it from the horse's mouth, it just rings true. Whether people like it or not, some people might think it's unprofessional. It might rub them up the wrong way because they believe. I was watching Simon Jordan. He was saying he believes it should be done behind closed doors, unprofessional, and Alex Crook was in agreement that it should never come out. But if it's behind closed doors, us as fans, we never quite know the truth. And the fact that it's come out, it's almost like when you hear some of the rumblings of the government, you know, you don't quite know if things are actually true. And then a whistleblower comes out, gets that information out. You're like, oh my days. So I wasn't going mad. I wasn't going crazy. And I think with Romero, similar to when Conte had his rant and he kind of exposed and he laid everything out on a table, Romero is kind of doing something slightly similar where he's saying, look, I'm for you guys. Because remember when Conte went on his rant, he was like, they pay our wages, you know, we work for them, talking about us fans. So when Romero's coming out, I feel like he's fighting for us. He's fighting our corner by calling out the club. I know the one before this one he kind of changed it a little bit, but the good thing about information nowadays, it spreads fast. So we know the original message and we know the truth. This time it's come out. He's been a bit more diplomatic, in my opinion, on this one, but it's done what it's needed to do. I think it's done what it's needed to do. So I'm all for it. People don't like it. Where I'm from, in my community, people tell you to your face. I think it's a different cultures. They have different ways of communicating, and some people like to be stabbed in the back, or they prefer to hear Chinese whispers and things that information gets leaked that way. And so I just don't think we would ever have known from the horse's mouth. They will never come out and snitch on themselves. Like Viv's never going to come out and says, oh, Vinay did this, or Langer's going to be like, look at Thomas Frank already. Thomas Frank's always like, the board supporting me no matter what. I've got a good relationship with Langer. I've got a good relationship with Vinay, even though they never backed him in that January window. Or it comes down to interpretation, but he was looking for that left back from what we know. He was looking for the left winger as well. And he was reassuring us fans as well. But then he kept backing them. And then now look, he's not going to come out and say, oh, you know what, they screwed me over. But that's why I'm glad you've got someone like Romero who's brave enough, because for me, it takes a lot of bravery as well. Like, I'll be real.
I agree. And I think one of the things for me is that a lot of fans who are criticising it haven't really made the point is, you know, the board aren't getting booed when they're putting in shit performances, right? It's the players that get booed and Thomas Frank, but the players are the ones who are facing that booing, right? And so, you know, the board have been completely exempt, and you know, we've tried, right? We'll talk about change for Tottenham and the protests and all that stuff later, but we've tried to sort of encourage ENIC out chance and all of that stuff, and it doesn't happen, right? And so, you know, Romero is the one who has to take accountability on the pitch. This lot never take any accountability for what they do. So I love the fact that he's called them out. And you know what? If he's been made certain promises, which inevitably he has, because why would he have signed a new contract otherwise and then come out and done 2 more statements since then? Clearly, they haven't lived up to their promises again, like they've made these promises to us as fans over 10, 15, 20, 25 years. It's just the same pattern time and time again. So look, you know, we can all talk about, oh, he should be professional and all of this stuff. But for me, the other thing is sure, the other thing is that these players, they're not like normal employees, right? They're not like normal employees. He can move on easily. He will move on easily, and it doesn't surprise me now that this statement has come out from, as you say, what is likely his mouthpiece in terms of this Argentinian journalist.
And Ash, I've got two questions for you about it.
Yeah.
Do you think that Romero is potentially speaking on behalf of all the players at this point, and this is something which the players have been talking about? And question two, do you think he's going to face any repercussions for this in terms of the club? And is there a way back from him from this, or do you think this is the end for Romero?
So apparently, a few players did like it. His actual post.
Yeah, so there's been like Danso, Madison, Solanke, Porro, quite a few. Gallagher liked it. Been in for a couple of days.
Gallagher, imagine a new guy, and obviously he's come in on a diplomatic one, saying, I've come into this space. It's a bit weird, but I've tried to come in light in the mood, and I'm coming with because a lot of Chelsea fans told me he's a really good professional, and I can see Conor Gallagher being a future captain because Madison,
he wants Romero to go be
get his way out personally, because I think the injuries thing and blah blah blah, and then I also think Romero, obviously, I don't think he'll be here to answer your question. So Conor Gallagher.
Did you see any kind of because I know last time Frank said it was a mistake, and he said they had a meeting with him and Langer and Romero, and that was it. Do you think he might be fine this time, or maybe even dropped?
Yeah, no, I'm going to get into that. Yeah, I think he will pick up another fine. But the news coming out, obviously, that you just spoke about, Spanish interest, Italian interest, etc., that's been there before. That was in last summer, before he signed a contract, and that's pumped up again. So I'm pretty sure, clubs top up other clubs, they talk to the agents and they get feeders through. And as I said earlier, he's probably spoken to his agent and said, listen, the promise is broken. Speak to who you need to. I'm out. Do you know what I'm saying? And he's probably said it, and they probably phoned him. They probably phoned the agent, phoned him. He's probably looked at his phone, hung the phone up, got onto the agent. The agent probably spoke to him, and he said, listen, I don't care. At this point, my team's struggling. We need it, and our voices aren't being heard. Do you know what I mean? So I feel bad for the players on that sense, because they're clearly struggling. They need to be heard. They're hurting, and they want to see the club do better as well. Because remember, coming from lifting a trophy, they do have some affiliation and some love to the club. Remember when Ange went, right? Van der Ven came out and said on that interview, the overlap, he said, we had no idea. He said we had no idea. They were shocked when Ange went. Do you know what I'm saying? So they're probably hurting from that still. Do you understand? Aside from what's going on now. Not to say, like, from my personal point of view, right or wrong decision on Ange, that's a separate talking point. Do you get it? But I just think that winning a trophy would have given them that kind of love for the club, that open top bus, that parade, going with the fans. You see Romero with the sunglasses, Wade with a couple cans, couple beers, bottles. I heard a thing about him being in a club, whatever, popping champers. But listen, I just think when it comes down to it, Romero, I think the club will be happy to sell him, and we will look for another player, because I think we were linked before this happened to Van Hecker. So the club are always forward planning. We're also linked to Senesi as well from Bournemouth. So that's Van der Ven. That's
free transfer as well, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you got Romero, they're saying 75 to 80 million, and then Van der Ven, they're looking to hold up for more than 100 million from what I'm hearing. So yeah, that's my honest opinion.
Yeah, and Connor, Romero takes a bit of flack online from the fan base. I know in terms of the Instagram post, it was very well received from the comments. Pretty much everyone replied saying "my captain," but he does take a little bit of stick from the fan base. How big a blow was it, do you think, to be to Tottenham if we lost Romero in the summer? Because I'm sure at the point that we're in at the moment, we don't want to be losing any of our best players. Does Romero count as one of them?
Yeah, he definitely does. I think it's a bit of a popular opinion at the moment to do some Romero bashing. For me,
there's a bit of self-preservation in there, because he might be going down the line.
Maybe, although obviously this is a bit newish, but for me with Romero, I mean, if we matched his ambition and his ability across the pitch, he would also be a much better player for Tottenham. I think he loses his head at times. The frustration for me with him is he does play on his terms, and I get that sentiment from our fans. You know, you're playing a cup final or in that Europa run. You know, I think I said to you yesterday, Bill, like he won player of the tournament at the Europa, won the man of the match in the final. I'm convinced we don't win that final if Romero's not on the pitch. I know everyone loves to point out the Van de Ven clearance off the line, and Van de Ven also had a fantastic game. But for me, Romero was just imperious in that final. And in terms of organisation, leading by example, even small things like taking the huddle into the Man United, into the Man United half at the start of the game, so it was nearly
And he
Tottenham
really got
fans to
on.
get the fans up for it.
He really got
Telling Ange what to do.
Maguire's head as well, didn't he? As well. He really got
Exactly.
Maguire's head.
Who at that point was their biggest attacking threat. So look, I think, and in terms of ability, for me, he's one of the best passing centre backs in world football. But I do get the sentiment that he can lose his head at times, and I don't think he's necessarily the best captain material to have when you're up against it in the trenches. I think if you put him into a functioning football team like Argentina, then you see the real Romero. So yeah, I can get the points that some fans make, but for me, it's going to be a massive, massive loss. And I think where we are right now, we will not be able to attract a player of his caliber as a replacement. And so, I know fans like Danso, and I think Danso's a good squad centre back to have, and he's a good proper defender, to use that term. But for me, he's levels off of a Romero, and a lot of Romero's defensive stuff does go unnoticed as well. The amount of times he wins the ball in front of his man, and I know it gets pointed out when he makes a foul doing that, but he also does it countless times during the game to get in front of the striker and win the ball. And I think it'll be a massive, massive loss personally. You're on mute, Bill.
And let's zoom out a little bit and think why this happened in the first place. And obviously, reading between the lines, it seems like he was, and Romero's had previous for this. He dropped his Ange post the minute that Thomas Frank was hired. So, he's very precise in his timings. And he posted this soon after the transfer window ended. So let's take a look at what the transfer window actually ended up being. I think, there's a little bit of disbelief in the fan base. We brought in two senior players, in Conor Gallagher and Sousa. We sold Brennan Johnson, and we had some other loans go out as well to Kai, Youngmin Hyuk, and a couple other players as well. Two players come in. Conor Gallagher comes in. Obviously, in January, we lost a lot of players through injury. What I'd like you guys to do in the chat, because we're going to talk about this now, I want you guys to rate the transfer window out of 10. Rate the transfer window out of 10. I think Romero probably gives it maybe a 2 out of 10 or a 3 out of 10, something like that, if we're being generous. Ash, I want to know your thoughts on the transfer window as a whole. What did you make of the transfer window? And then towards the end, we'll come back to rating it towards the end. But what are your overall thoughts on this transfer window for Tottenham Hotspur?
Yeah, well, essentially, we were gaslighted. It's the best way to put it, because they kind of framed it like this was going to be the window, that was going to be a bit of a game changer, like a window of intent, something that could separate themselves from the previous chairman in Daniel Levy. So there was a lot of talk about the money that will be spent and the wages and the age profile and getting the right players in for those positions. So obviously we brought in Conor Gallagher, but before that, there's lots of talk about Sousa. So those guys were floating around. Obviously the protest happened, and then I think a night before or 2 days before, they announced Conor Gallagher on purpose, like intentional. So but leading up to that, I remember a lot of people were on the fence before that, saying, the window hasn't ended yet. You need to give it time. You need to let it marinate. We need to see what's going on. But from a lot of Spurs fans, we were kind of like a bit pessimistic about it all. So when it did eventually finish, and we saw the end result, and we only got not two players. We got a couple academy players as well. We got a couple youngsters in. I don't know if we can put that towards the actual transfer window because they're not going to impact the starting 11. And I think that was the actual point. The point was that we needed players to come in right now because the team was decimated. The actual squad was not addressed, where we had so many illnesses on top of injuries. We had long-term injuries, and the fact that in summer we missed out on that Son replacement. We were talking about trying to get your Semenyos, and we were looking at Savinho as well, or Savio, whatever you're going to call him. And we were told we're going to circle back round the block for him. What happens? He got injured. He signed a new contract. So then you're looking at that situation, that left wing that we desperately need. Who's the next one in? That's fine, that happens. Who's next? Do you understand? Links were made. We're hearing this player, that player. Nothing really kind of came to fruition. And then amongst all of that, we picked up injuries alongside it. So Kudos got injured, and that kind of changed the kind of feeling of the actual window, where we looked at maybe the right wing as well. So that's when Al-Khalouch talk happened a lot. It was like, maybe we get Al-Khalouch in. That's possible. That's viable. And as that window pushed on, that kind of conversation intensified down to the last day. And then obviously when it didn't happen on that last day, even though we were looking at other positions like centre back, because we picked up injuries from our centre backs, that never happened as well. And then on top of that, before all of that, because I even forgot this bit, you've got the Robertson situation. Now, the Robertson situation was a mixed bag. People were like, Robertson, where's that come from? We need a left back that can maybe play left-sided centre back, because us fans were thinking about squad building, but you've got Langer in and you've got Vinay in, and we're like, who's making the decisions here for Frank? Is Frank involved in this? Frank's talking about he needs leaders, hence why we've got the Conor Gallagher in. That was a mixed bag, because a lot of people were saying we didn't get the right profile in the middle of the park. We needed a progressive passer. That's what we lacked. And Conor Gallagher was a similar profile to your Pape Sarrs. And how would that affect the progression of Bergvall and Archie Gray? So there was a whole heap of debate within the fan base saying, yeah, we're not saying he's bad, and Conor Gallagher's a good player, but we needed a player that could address some of those glaring issues, because that's going to affect our overall position, because we were falling down the table. So there was lots of concerns during that window. So we thought, because the club was failing, on top of that, we picked up injuries during that window. And you thought, what was the whole purpose of a January window? Was to either address what you didn't do in summer, or B, fix one or two injuries that pop up at the time. Then they all came out and said, we're going to inject 100 million as well. And it never happened. It never manifests. And it felt like same old same. We've been lied to again. We've been duped. A lot of people felt very disheartened about the actual situation. So, well, I don't know. I could go on for ages, bro. I'll let Connor come in, because, yeah, there's so many like facets to where the window went. I was going to round it up. For me personally, I wasn't expecting much, so I wasn't as disheartened as a lot of people. But I was like, prove me wrong, surprise me. But as a window on a whole, I would give it a 2 as well. I'll give it a 2 out of 10. Because I'm not a massive fan of Conor Gallagher. However, I do respect him as a professional, and I think he will improve us long term as well. So I'm not mad at it. So I'm not going to give it a 0 out of 10, like some people might do, or a -1.
Yeah, look, I think for me, I mean, you've made most of the same points I would have made. I think it's that everyone knows. I hate even using this statement, but everyone knows January is more difficult. But that argument just doesn't really fly with me, because then don't leave yourself in a situation where you need to be desperately doing business in January. And we come out of every summer window going, it's a shame we didn't do X, Y, and Z. We did that again, as Ash said. The Son replacement is unforgivable for me. Not getting that. You've known for a number of years that you should have been succession planning for Son anyway. So there's an argument to say we should have signed a Son replacement, a proper Son replacement, not this summer, but the summer before. And then not to even do it in this window, in this summer window just gone, and then again, obviously in January, nothing, is just incompetence beyond belief. And I think, you're right. I think when you look at all of the context around, we're sitting 14th in the league, we're trying to juggle Premier League and Champions League. You've got a manager who is struggling. You've got injuries coming out of your ears, 11, 12 players missing. We finished 17th last season. We're the 9th richest club in the world. You add all of these things together, and then you see the window that's just been delivered, and then the excuses that you get or the explanations that you get from people are things like, oh, well, no one else has done that much. Well, no one else is sitting 14th when they should be a club that's sitting in the top 6 and the Champions, wants to challenge for Champions League, and being told by their fans that they, being told by the owners that they want to compete on all 4 fronts. So it's just another shit show. It was a shit show before the window even started with the whole Paratici thing and him going, and it's played out completely like that. And look, for me, at most, I'd give it a 2 out of 10, the same as Ash. I could see in the chat as well, most people were anywhere between 0 and I think 4 was the very, very highest. I think, and the only reason I'd be as generous to give it 2 is because I'm building in that context that January is more difficult. And I probably like Conor Gallagher a little bit more than you, Ash, but I do get the concern as well, because I don't think he was exactly what we needed. And it's just opportunistic, but then we're not even being reactive anymore, right? We all moaned that the club is never proactive. They're not even being reactive to this situation. And so it is an absolute shambles. And there's a bit in the fan advisory board minutes, right, from December, where the club, this is basically a meeting that the fan advisory board had with Vinay and Peter Charrington. And in there it says, we will be alert to opportunities in January, but we understand that January is a difficult window to do business, or words to that effect, which tells me that they went into this window with zero plan. Because all they've spoken about is, we will be alert to opportunities. So, that's what other clubs who are in a good situation should be. Like a Man City, for example, they go and get Guay because they're alert to that opportunity and they're reacting to an injury. But in a situation that we're in, we need to be going into windows with a plan and coming out of every window better than we went into it. And we've come out of this window worse than we went into it, in terms of the state of the squad right now. We're going to chat about the squad in a bit, but for me, it's shambolic. But Bill, what's your rating out of interest?
Yeah, I can't disagree with you guys. 2 out of 10. I'm the same as Ash as well. I'm not massively bowled over by the Conor Gallagher signing. I have nothing against the player at all. I just feel like that's not really an issue in the squad for us. I do, however, think that we've got a lot of number 8s. And I think Conor Gallagher is probably the best of them, so it has improved slightly. I just don't think it's a glaring issue for us. I think Sarr coming back in the last couple of games has been really good, and we've got plenty of bodies there. Having said that, I thought Conor Gallagher was good against Man City for sure, so I'm not against the signing. I just think there's much more glaring issues than another box-to-box midfielder for sure. But we'll come on to that in a second. And for anyone listening on the podcast, we are going to take a first break now. But I think it's only right, Connor, before we go into what we're going to do after the break is we're going to rate the squad and see what Thomas Frank has been left with. And I am by no means a fan of Thomas Frank, and I do want him to be not be our manager anymore. But I think any fan looking in at the moment has to have a bit of sympathy for him for what he's been left with. He came out on Friday and said that the squad is weaker than it was at the beginning of January. And when a manager like Thomas Frank, who is, he's not one to challenge, he's not one to push the boundary, he's not doing a Conte rant. That's probably as close as you're ever going to get to him sort of pushing his head above. Just thought we'd have a quick chat about change to Tottenham and protests and that kind of thing first before we go into rating the squad. Obviously, at the Man City game, the protest didn't go to plans. I think we've learned from change to Tottenham that, match things are difficult to get right. The timing of it was obviously not correct. And quite a few people have said to me, well, if we were losing 2-0 or 3-0, loads of people walked out. And I think on reflection, that's not right, because that means they're walking out because of the result and they're not walking out because of the ownership. So we're going to go away. We're going to go and think of things we couldn't do. But Connor, what I wanted to ask you is, now that the transfer window is closed and the captain has come out and said, it's a disgrace, is the words that he used. Do you think that, sort of protests and, that you spoke earlier about, chanting against the owners and things like that. Do you think a lot more fans now are going to be on board with sort of, going against the owners now that the transfer window is closed?
I'm not sure still, mate, to be honest, because I think what this, the protest that we were at beforehand, before this one where we had 150, 200 of us outside the corner pin, and then when with this one, there is something in the fact that I think a lot of the Enoch out voices are either completely apathetic at this stage, or they are no longer going to the games. I think that's definitely the case. I think in terms of the match going fans, and I had a chat with Sean about this the other week. I think the other day, sorry. I think there is a percentage of the match going fans who probably don't even know who Enoch are, to be honest, or have no interest at all in what the ownership is or what they've done, or they just want to go and watch a game of football. I think so. I think it's really, really difficult to get the numbers that we need. I think what this does prove, though, Bill, we use the phrase sometimes we were on the right side of history. All of us that were at that protest during the window, because look at how it's played out exactly as we anticipated it would. This rebrand is a complete shambles again. They haven't changed. But I think this is an opportunity for change for Tottenham to take stock. Obviously, I've made this point lots of times. It's not an easy job that you guys are doing. None of you are professional protesters or experienced in organising these types of movements. You're learning on the job. The 75-minute walkout, I think, was ambitious at this point, and probably, to your point, was so dependent on game state. And then anyone who was leaving, are they leaving because they're actually feeling necessarily upset about the ownership, or is it just they want to leave the game early because we're losing? And so, I think it's time for change for Tottenham. Take stock. There's some lessons to be learned. I think, I think, to be honest, my view is change for Tottenham should reconsider their model in terms of, is it worth monetizing with fans that can't attend the games? Something like a £20 annual membership, and you give them a free scarf or whatever, and then you've got a marketing budget to do things like print flyers, become a bit more strategic around some of the type of stuff, because I just think we're going to struggle to get the impact that we need to with just boots on the ground. So it's really difficult. I think it's a difficult job. I think we'll keep fighting the good fight, and one day hopefully we'll be rid of these owners. But as it stands, I fear for Tottenham, and I fear that nothing is really going to change.
And we definitely had those conversations tonight as a group, and we will be posting some more news on that for sure. As I've said before online, I've always been kind of reluctant to take people's money, just because I think, we don't want to lose trust on where the money's going or anything like that. Obviously, we'd always put it back into the group and things like that. But I think as soon as you start taking money, there can be transparency issues there. We would always make sure that we are transparent. But I think one thing that we're definitely going to do is look at how we can market to those match-going fans. Like you say, a lot of them probably aren't on Twitter, aren't online and things like that. But Ash, we always ask people this question on the show. I mean, since the last time we asked it, now the captain has come out and been that as well. What have you made of the post-Daniel Levy era so far, and the Enoch 2.0, their first 6 months? Because every time we seem to come on here, something else has gone wrong somewhere. What have you made of the start that they've made to this sort of, in inverted commas, new era?
I just want to kind of, before I get into that, I want to talk about that process as well, if I can. And add suggestions too. I've got a slightly different opinion. I think it was not a success, but it did better than you think, because on TalkSport they were talking about it. I was at home for the Man City game, and Sky Sports commentators, Gary Neville, and I can't remember the main commentator, that's all they were talking about was the silence. And the silence for me was a sign of protest, for me personally. And they described it, they said, we've never heard, going to a match in the Premier League, such deafening silence. We have never heard it like this before. And I think that was a bigger message to the board, that the fans were not happy. So you do have awareness, in my opinion. So people are becoming, whether you realize it or not, more and more aware of what's going on. And I think that the broader picture of the media, they are understanding the fans' discontent, because Gary Neville kept saying, yeah, there's going to be sounds like there's going to be a planned protest on the 75th minute. They only mocked it towards the end because the game changed. The game
scored
stakes
on the 73rd minute,
right
well.
then, exactly. There you go. Right. So had it not of that had happened, then I think it would have been blown up. It would have been, the papers would have picked it up. I think you would have had a lot more traction. But the point is, you've got them talking. They know about it. And so there's a lot of people in TalkSport after the games. They call in as fans. I've been going to Spurs for 40 years, blah, blah, blah. And they're saying their opinion. Simon Jordan's always going to talk about it because he's coming from the other side, the other perspective, the owner's perspective, and he thinks fans are very fickle, and we don't know what we have until it's gone, and we're just ungrateful, and we don't understand how much work goes into it. He was more back in, obviously, Daniel. Now he's looking at ENIC slightly with different lens. But I think my suggestion to you guys would be to carry on protesting and spread awareness by doing more, I'd say not charity streams, but streams where you're doing it specifically for the awareness of the actual movement, just so you can let people know what the brand is about, on brand, that this is an ENIC out movement. Because some people said, I don't know if it's an ENIC out movement or of course it's an ENIC out movement. What else would it be? What are you talking about? But I think it's because it's the word change for Spurs and it's not so aggressive. And it's funny because some people didn't like the aggression of ENIC and Levy out. Do you know what I mean? But when it was changed for Spurs, it was a bit more palatable. But now all of a sudden they're saying the message is confusing. So people don't really know what they want. But for me, I would suggest that, you know how people do 12-hour streams, 24-hour streams. And even though you're just saying, okay, it's online presence, it's not the same as people when they're outside, like the match going fans. I still think doing streams like that, inviting other, content creators on, ones that maybe aren't in the YouTube space, but they do content creating, or maybe just different Tottenham people, just different creators or even sports people that represent Spurs in your space, to kind of get it over to them. I don't know. I'm not saying you get Abby Summers, for example. I'm not saying that, even though I think that could work. But someone
watch this space for that.
Well, this is what I'm saying. So that kind of vibe, that kind of move where you getting those type of folks on, oh, what Abby's on? Oh my days. Oh, what Uzin's on? Uzin, oh my days. So then you've got Uzin does non-Spurs fans. So then you've got when you've got non-Spurs fans talking about it, then Spurs fans will be like, what? Why have all these Arsenal fans talking about? Why Liverpool fans and Man United fans know more about my club than I do? Then you're hitting it from different angles, in my opinion. Do you understand? And it's a free way, and it's something that you've got already. You've got X, you've got YouTube space, but you can use it for just that, if that makes sense. And you can promote that. So whenever you want to do a protest, you could promote it 4 weeks in advance, 3 weeks in advance, 2 weeks in advance, 1 week in advance, because people have kids, they've got to get, work leave. There's different reasons why people don't attend the protest, or they don't want to do the work, the walkout. I've heard some of my people, they've said, I'll prefer it if it was just before, I don't think that walkout one was the one. You get it? I didn't mind the walkout one. I thought the walkout one can work, and I thought it was right because it gets that media attention, in my opinion. But yeah, I say don't worry about all the scarves and all that. Don't worry about that. As long as you've got a place where people can meet up and there's a clear agenda where people know the itinerary, where they know, okay, we're meeting at this spot, and then at this spot we're singing songs, we're chanting, we're making noises. At 20 past, we're going for a walk up the high road, or we're walking towards, at past, we're walking towards the west stand, or and then something like that, so people know the movements. So then, all right, cool, we better get there on time, because if people don't have a reason to get there on time, you're not going to have that mass gathering. You're not going to have the movement. And the more information you put out there, the better. Where people don't understand the messaging, the branding, what's going on, that's where the translation's getting lost. That's where you're losing support. People don't buy into it. People need to buy into it, because people, remember, they're followers, they're sheep. And if they don't think, oh, I don't want to go by myself, you know what I mean? I know you put that message out, don't worry, it's safe for children, it's safe for, but there's lots of Spurs fans, they don't roll in like 3s, 4s, or 5s. Some might just roll with their mum, their dad, the uncle, the granddad. Do you understand? So it's just about marketing to a way where if they haven't got that circle, because when I went to the march, I went by my ones. You know what I'm saying? Even though I know about 30 people from South that support Spurs, them man are unrolling, but I will roll for my bit by myself. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I'm just a soldier like that. I've got a different mentality. But some people need their handheld. Do you get it?
Yeah.
But post Levy era, there's not much to go on really, because we've just had the 1 January window, in my opinion, and the 1 January window so far, it's been very bad PR. It's like these guys can't read the room at all, and the reason being is because they're not, as everyone says, football people. You've got a lot of suits making decisions, and they all have to agree. And it's like, imagine we have 8 people right now on stream, and we say, who's better right now, Maddison or Xavi? Do you know what I'm saying? The top line might say Madders, the bottom line might say Xavi. Do you understand? So it's like that for them when they got to make a decision in terms of what player they're bringing in, what coaching staff should bring in, what manager should we have. Do you know what I'm saying? I reckon there was probably lots of arguments about Heitinger coming in, that extra
and
medical staff. Thomas Frank. You know they're debating about that. I reckon that extra medical staff that was a and a Haran. Do you understand? I think Vinay is digging his heels in. He's very articulate. He's smart. He's good at presenting. He's good at smoozing and getting his points across to appease probably a lot of those board members, because he probably speaks their language. And then he's probably got the examples from the Arsenal. Like, there's a lot of Arsenal tape. If you watch, what's it called, on the Amazon documentary, All or Nothing, Arsenal version, he was there with Kroenke, his son, and obviously Arteta and Edu at the time, when in negotiations trying to get players in, and he was like, having a say. So he could present that to the Tottenham board to say, look, I know you guys don't want Frank, but he still has that kind of buy-in as the football expert, even though he's not a footballing man himself, really. Do you understand? Not like Paratici. Look how much years Paratici has on both Langer and Vinay. Like, he's come from Juventus, who weren't winning when he went, and he got them to back-to-back titles. Do you understand? So that's experience that, whether people like Don Paratici or not, he did that. He rebranded. He got the old lady back after that. Allegations, you know, when he went down, they got relegated. He came back after, and he got them there, and he was one that had Allegri. He hired different managers, coaching staff. He's come to us, and obviously we got rid of that. And Langer hasn't got that same experience. And remember, he was a small boy at Villa. Even he was just in charge of getting the youngsters, and he's come here, and again, he's in charge of getting the youngsters, and even negotiating skills when it comes to it. I was hearing Vinay was involved with Kudos still, really, because of his links with Barclays, O'Sullivan, and obviously, what's her name, Karen Brady. Like, he had all the links from there of the financial backgrounds, whatnot. So he was able to understand, oh yeah, West Ham are in trouble. West Ham owe money to Barclays, and if they don't sell at a certain point, we could take advantage of that. Cool. What we'll do is we'll make it like Langer got the Kudos deal done. That'll give him credit in the bank. But no one really bought that. Do you understand? Like, I remember there was like, you know, the whole like, yeah, we got Kudos, and you see Langer walking. No one to this day is talking about Langer's deal with Kudos. Do you understand? At the same time, we don't know if Langer, because let's face it, he got Bergvall. We give him credit for that. We don't know if there was other players like a Bergvall, like a Victor Froholt, who I like, for example, could play the 6/8, that he wanted, that, you know, they said, no, you can't get him. Or another player like Al Khalouch, for example. Like, we don't know if before Man City he was looking at a Turkey. Do you get what I'm trying to say? But they slapped him down and said, "Bruv, you're a small boy. We've got enough youth. Like, relax." But like Nusa, that's another one, a player that obviously.
Yeah, we were quite close to him. I mean, he ended up failing medical, didn't he, at Brentford as well? Yeah.
So, like, the profile of players that we're looking at, wingers that can play in midfield or can play across the front line, very similar. One's on the left, one's on the right. Akalush, we don't know if they put a stop to that and said, you know what? No, we see Akalush.
Too expensive,
Too expensive. He's still young. He's another French kid. We've already got Tell's not working out. We've already got Shy Boy in Odebert. And we've got Mouani, who's looking moody. We're not sure if he wants to be here. And you want to add another French don to that? Like, so we don't know how much Langer's got power. I'm not rating Langer, by the way, people, just to put it out there. But I'm just trying to throw a different spin on it to get it. So, but the way it looks to me right now, it's looking like too many Indians, not enough Cowboys, or vice versa. Do you know what I'm saying? There's too many chefs, and they're spoiling the broth. So, like, yeah, that's what it's looking like to me. I know people talking about Travis Stock. I'm like, what? Travis Stock now? Travis Stock versus Enoch. Like, what we do? Like, what's going on? Like, who's in charge here?
Ash, with that phrase you just used there, did you mean too many Chiefs, not enough Indians, rather than too many Indians?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I completely agree.
Well, you get the analogy, right? There's too many. There's too much chitter chatter going on, and that stops decision. That slows down the decision. Whereas, whether we like it or not, because Levy did all of the jobs, he had to answer to himself. Oh, Levy, do you want to pay up? Yes, I do. Okay, then we sign a contract. Cool. Do you know what I'm saying? It was this. He didn't have to answer to no one but Joe. So essentially, he was running the club. Because now, like, you've got Viv. Viv probably came in, saw what was going on, saw the fans protesting. I said, "Oh, this is a mess." All right, cool.
She got approached, didn't she?
Yeah, let me get a private investigator. Let's do a complete audit on him, because remember, they're finance people, they're deep in it. Let me get I'm trying to rebrand this club. Let's get this club back to where it needs to be. And then she might have different ideas to what maybe some people on the board have versus what Vinay has. So then you've got Viv, you've got Vinay, you've got Charrington. You know what I'm saying? You just got a bag of people with different ideas of how to run the club. And then all of a sudden, it's in a stalemate. You're in a Mexican standoff. Sorry. So that's what I personally
think. The thing is, though, like what we had before with Levy, I mean, we're all used to it because it's Tottenham, right? And it was that structure for so long. But that was actually atypical, right? What we had with Levy, where he micromanaged and did everything. I mean, what we've got now should, in theory, be more like what you see at Man City and what you see at Arsenal and what you see at other clubs. But the problem is that we've got a sporting director who's completely incompetent, and we had two of them as well, right? We tried to do this whole co-sporting director nonsense, which obviously is just going to lead to disputes and never quite worked. I mean, look, I want the ownership to change because I don't, I want us to be bought because I think we need a complete cultural reset, and I don't think Enoch will ever do what they need to do because I don't think football's their priority. But if we assume that is not going to happen, for me, now we're in February, I need to see Langer sacked. I need them to say that they, to come out on record and say this window was a disaster and that we're putting in place a new footballing structure with a sporting director, and we're giving that new sporting director, whoever it be, a Ralph Rangnick, that type, we're giving that person the keys and they're running it, right? Because you look at Arsenal, I think I said this, Bill, last time we spoke, Stan Kroenke is not calling up players and, negotiating transfers. He's got Andrea Berta to do that. Andrea Berta's the one who's on the phone to Eze, and the budget is set at the board level, and what we can afford to spend, whatever, that's set at that level. But these people can't be getting involved in the footballing decisions because they're not football people, right? But we just need a sporting director who you can actually get behind. And I think with Langer, there's no one would suggest that's someone you can get behind long term, is it? I think he signed some okay kids, decent kids, but he's not your man that you want to go, here you go, here's the keys. Can you revolutionise us as a football club?
I'm looking at
It's not gonna
Rennes scouting department because you've got Amavinga, he came from Rennes. You had Doué, he was at Rennes. You've got who else? You've got what's his name that plays for PSG, Ballon d'Or winner. I forgot his name.
Oh, Dembele.
Dembele. He was from Rennes. Do you know what I mean? There's a few other players. My mind's gone blank. All from Rennes, and I'm like, maybe we
Tell was Rennes as well.
Yeah, he was there. Marcel was there. They had some other like wonder kids, and I'm like, you know what? I think they've got an eye test for talent.
Yeah, I'm just googling it. I didn't even know.
Doku as well, bro. So maybe we go to them and we take their talent scout, their talent ID, pay them a bit because obviously in France, how much they really make it? Do you know what I'm saying? And get them and bring them in with someone like a Ralph Ragnick. Do you know what I mean? Or someone of that ilk. So whoever's churning out has got a proven record of developing or picking out these top talents. Because I think Spurs are more of a builder club, in my opinion, as opposed to a club that goes out and buys £100 million player. Do you know what I'm saying? I look at like our history. Bale, when we got him from Southampton, we made him into a star. Modric from Dinamo Zagreb, he was like a youngster, and we made him into like a star. He had the potential, but we turned him into a superstar. You've got Berbatov. He was doing his thing at Bayer Leverkusen, but he made his name at Tottenham. Do you know what I'm saying? So in my mind is that we aren't quite the Man City because we've seen what's happened. We tried to compete with Man City and we got knocked down. You know, Semenyo's chosen. We wanted Guehi. Guehi turned us down. He said, no, I'm not coming. Do you know what I mean? So then we might have to shop outside of Europe and get the next best. Do you know what I'm saying? Because we've got the wealth for it.
This is it. I mean, we're now at like players like Semenyo, because of what's happened over the last 5-6 years with the decline and what ENIC have done, right? In terms of the mismanagement, we can't attract players like that anymore. We needed to strike for players like that when we had Pochettino here, instead of going 3 transfer windows without signing a player. You know, that was when we should have been, you know, building on what Poch had in terms of a first 11. The problem was Poch was then left with a subbench containing Carter Vickers and Onoma and the likes, right?
Yeah,
that was our missed opportunity. But now we're at the stage we're at. We've got to build you got to buy the best of the rest, haven't you? Players like
Connor,
Xavi
we tried.
Simons and Judas.
Yeah, Voskovic would be a great example. But now we're hearing like I watched a documentary about why Voskovic went to Hamburg, which is interesting, and it was about his brother, right? Yeah. And his brother was done for like doping, but there's other players like Pogba and I can't remember who else got done for doping, but they've had lighter bans.
4-year ban.
But he got the 4-year ban, exactly. And everyone was like in Hamburg, oh, this is an injustice, blah, blah, blah. And he was meant to be like the next best thing. And then his younger brother doing so well and then coming back to club is seen like a fairy tale. And now he wants to stay for another season because he wants to reunite with his brother. And then they're meant to play together. But then there's also other rumors where Bayern Munich are looking at him because remember he got voted the best player in the Bundesliga ahead of Kane, which is crazy to me. You know how crazy that is. So now you've got Germany sniffing around. Obviously, we've got the contract, but the way Van der Ven, Romero, like it's a bit of a circus at Spurs right now. The branding, the PR, it's not looking good, guys. I'm like, what's going to happen with that one?
And Rakitic has just come out today and said everyone in the world is talking about Vuskovic. So there you go. But talking about the circus at Tottenham, you know, anyone that has not seen Ash's analytic videos before, his analysis videos before, make sure you go and check them out. Because he's got such an incredible way of analysing football, you know, incredible ball knowledge. So we did want to get Ash on specifically tonight because we're going to try and rate the squad and see what Thomas Frank has been left with at the end of the window and see what we've got left with, you know, to compete in the Champions League and the league. Obviously, at the beginning of the season, they said we're going to compete on all 4 fronts. We're down to 2. I'm not sure if you can really call the Champions League a front because considering the teams that are on it, but we'll see. So the way that we're going to do this, and this is the first time we've done this, so hopefully it'll work all right. we've got a little tier list, and we want you to play along in the chat as well. Anyone that's listening to audio, we've got a tier list on screen now, and we're going to go through the players and the ratings that we've got, because it's Tottenham, and we were going to discuss about the new physio that's been hired. The bottom tier is injured, just because we simply have so many of them that are injured at the moment. Then we've got poor, average, good, and great. So we're going to go through the individuals in the squad and rank them there. For injured, we're only going to go for injured if they're like long-term injured. So Jed Spence, for example, will be the first player that we do. We won't count him as injured because he will be back in a couple of weeks. But I know we don't have many short-term injuries. Most of them are long-term. So in the chat as well, play along with us. But Ash, I'll come to you first.
Yeah.
Jed Spence. We'll keep him out of injured for now because hopefully it's a short-term injury for him. What are you saying about Jed Spence? Poor, average, good, or great?
I'm gonna put him good. I like it. I like Jed Spence. I like Jed Spence.
Good for me as well.
I don't know what's happened to his shooting though. Like when he was at Forest, he was a shooter. I remember when he played against Man United.
He scored about 1 goal for us, hasn't he? Or maybe 2 max. I think he scored against Coventry.
He scored top bins. I said, Rob, we need this guy. We need him. Like a right winger. He looked so amazing. Did his stint obviously at Torino. Was it Torino? Anyway, he went to Serie A and matured.
Genoa.
He went to Rennes as well. Speaking about Rennes,
and he went to Rennes as well, right? So he came back. I remember, because he made friends with Doué. He was like, "Oh, Doué's like the best guy." I remember he had an interview with Rio Ferdinand, and he's been playing on the left for us quite a bit. And what I like about him is that he's able to get up the pitch, and some people don't put enough credit on that, in my opinion. So a lot of people think, if you can't cross the ball or if you don't have a final action, then you're no good. Like you're an average player. But for me, there's not enough players in the squad that can get the ball from the defensive third into the mid third, and that can change the momentum and change the dynamic. And I think he's quite good at that, especially when he came on against Coventry. I remember he came on, him and Kulusevski came on, and they changed the game. Yeah. But I think he's a good player, and I like to see him on the right-hand side where he's meant to be.
We might see that a bit more now, mightn't we? Now that Porro is injured.
Yeah. I think where people are gonna, like I said, will judge him is because can he cross the ball? No, he can't cross the ball. So we're gonna need to see something a little bit more, in my opinion. When I say can't cross the ball, I mean on a consistent basis where he delivers. Great, exactly. That's what he needs to work on. But I really do like
seems consistently average in the chat is the assessment from the viewers, which I think is where a lot of this squad is going to end up falling.
I think he's
I think he's a good player. I know. I like Jed Spence. I even when he played centre back, he did a little job there. I think he's a good player, man. I know. I think
to be fair, he has
a lot of players, and we're going to get into it anyway. We'll get into it.
Now, this one might be a bit more tricky. Now, I think what we'll try and do is try and go for their sort of baseline level of average, because, with this one in particular, you could make a case for almost every position on there on a different day. But we'll go for their baseline, Con. A bit more of a tricky one, Yves Bissouma. What are we saying about him?
I'm going to go poor because I'm assessing this from the perspective of, what he offers us right now, generally. And unfortunately for Bissouma, if he had a brain, he would be in either good or great. But I'm sort of assessing it not just on his ability or the ceiling of his ability, but like what he offers us, and the fact that he needs to go. So look, I think he's got talent for sure, but attitude is so bad that for me he has to go into poor.
Ash, you agree with that?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that, only because he would be even good as well, but his attention span, his ability to stay switched on is what lets him down. And sometimes as a midfielder, you need to have that peripheral vision, where that goal where we conceded in that first goal, he needs to know that Bernardo Silva is on his shoulder and needs to be checking his shoulder constantly. He's let the ball go under his feet. For me, as a midfielder, you need to be one of the best players on the pitch, and people need to be able to depend on you. Coaches can't depend on players like Bissouma because of that trait. And I don't know if it's because he's got ADHD or it's the balloons, but it's that constant switching off. That's what costs him in terms of him getting to that next level. And on the ball, he looks great, but you just don't see that ball carrying enough for me to mark it any higher.
Oh, I'm enjoying you trying to get Bentancur into injured here. It's like watching our medical team try and get someone out of injured.
I know. That's the Tottenham. It's not letting me move Bentancur into injured, so we're going to say Bentancur's injured for now, and then we're going to come on to a bit of a different one as well. Again, I think for quite a few of these players, I think you can make a case in almost every position. Obviously, Bentancur goes straight into injured because he is injured. What about Archie Gray though, Ash? I think this one is a bit of an interesting one because he gets a lot of minutes. He's obviously. I personally think he's a lot younger than people remember sometimes. Where are you going for Archie Gray?
That's a hard one. I'm going to leave it average. I don't think he's a poor player, but I don't think he's a good player. Because for me, if you're playing in that midfield, you need to be press resistant. He's not press resistant, in my opinion. And I'm like,
I agree with
all right, cool. You're not press resistant. Can you spray a pass? Can you disguise a pass? Do you have variance on your pass? Can you switch the play? Can you chip balls into channels? Yes, but on a frequent basis. I look at frequency. What does a player do frequently? And what do they do well? He's a good ball. I wouldn't say he's a good ball carrier. He's decent. He's a decent ball carrier. I wouldn't say he's an exceptional or good at ball carrying. I think he's all right. He's okay. So
and then Ben Davis, I'm going to change this one here to poor/injured because it's not letting me put anyone injured. But Ben Davis is injured as well, so we'll move on to there.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I have a feeling I know where this one's going to end up. Connor, Kolo Muani, and I'm talking about Tottenham's Kolo Muani. Is that an easy one to go straight?
Yeah, again, look, you've got to assess it on what value they're bringing to us right now. And by the way, I agree with Gray on average personally because I think I'm building into that the context of age and his potential. But Muani, yeah, I would agree. I think he's got to go in poor. He's been a massive disappointment, and the attitude is horrendous. So definitely poor.
Definitely. And just so anyone watching on audio and visual, that is poor/injured. We'll put them both there in that bracket. Okay, I think a little bit of a brighter green shoots on this one. Ash, Udogie, Destiny Udogie. Talk to me about him.
Udogie, I like him. I am a fan of Udogie. Defensively,
I think it's been a big boost having him back the last few games, isn't it?
Yeah. Lots of people again criticize him because he can't cross the. He's a person that gets to the byline and he's able to cut back, and we haven't actually got a player in the squad that does that on that left hand side. So he adds necessary width. I'm going to put him as good. Problem with him is that he gets injured a lot. I just remember him having a full season at Udinese, and I thought, right, this kid looks special. But I'm going to put him as a good player. If he could just stay fit, I think he could get to another level, man. Yeah. But his season keeps getting interrupted.
I agree with that. I mean, I think people forget that in Udogie's first season at Tottenham as well, he was in most people's team of the year at left back. Like pundits and stuff were putting him at left back in the team of the year.
You're right. Rivals as well.
And rivals, and when you're doing combined 11s with Arsenal fans and stuff, they were happy to have Udogie in there, all sorts. So I think for me, it was he's just been so unlucky with injuries and breaks down. And I think his final ball needs to get better. That's the thing for me with him. He's such an athlete and can get into positions. I think he's got all of the fundamentals if he could stay fit and work on that final ball of being one of the best left backs in the country. So yeah, I would probably put him good, but at the lower end of good just because of that injury proneness.
And I think he possibly has potential to end up in great by the end of his career for sure. And I think, speaking of that, Connor, I think this one might be one of the ones that is more of an easier decision again. Mickey van der Ven, where are we putting him?
Injured.
Right, definitely. Injured, yes. Yeah, he goes. I mean, he clearly goes into great.
I think that's one of our, our undoubted members of quality in the squad that we have for sure. Ash, you agree with that?
Yeah.
Easy one?
Yeah. I mean, if I want to critique it, I would say his foot speed is lightning, like in terms of recovery. But I mean, defensive wise, I think he needs to be able to shift his feet a little bit quicker when he's moving laterally, or he needs to turn because he gets turned quite easily, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's
But
my
his
only
recovery
critique
pace
on it.
is world class, isn't it? You know,
His
he's definitely
recovery, you can't knock it.
yeah. No, I was originally going to have a category for world class, but I don't think we're at a level at the moment where we've got any world class players. But I think definitely Mickey van der Ven would be knocking at the door one day.
He scored some headers as well. He scored some headers, isn't it?
Very good
So
from set pieces.
that's an improvement.
Goal threat for us. Now, Ash, this one I think has been fluctuating throughout the season, particularly online from other fans. I think the last couple of games have revealed it a little bit more. Xavi, where are we going for Xavi?
Yeah, no, Xavi is a great player. But I'm only basing that on I critique him a hell of a lot. So you would never think I would think he's a great player. But when I first saw him, I said my analysis was if Eze is hot, then Xavi is cold, rude boy. That's what I said. I think he's ice cool. He's a special talent, and once he gets used to the league, I think he will only get better. I still think there is a lot of room for improvement. He does need more output in terms of that box threat, in terms of like getting his shots off a bit earlier, a bit sooner. And I would like to say, I think he needs to put disguise on his shots. I think that's maybe the reason why his shots are getting blocked, or he's taking extra touch when he doesn't need to. Sometimes when he's carrying the ball, in my opinion, he needs to see that picture a little bit quicker. But that's me. I think he's a great player. That's why I'm so critical of him. Even some of his final third passes, a little bit straight. He needs to hit them more on an angle. Sometimes he puts too much weight on it, etc. That will come. That will come as he gets to understand the way his players run, move, and positions, etc. So I think, yeah, he's a great player in my opinion.
I agree, and I'm having real trouble here moving these players, but I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, for our listeners on audio, everyone on YouTube is watching Billy trying to move players into
Kudus
rows.
is going into injured. Put it that way.
Well.
Kudus is injured, and then Connor to another Connor Gallagher. Where are we going for Connor Gallagher?
I'm going to say good.
Yeah,
I'll say good. Yeah, I think he's better than average. I don't think he was exactly what we needed, but I think he's better than our other eights at that. And so yeah, it's good for me. And yeah, look, on Simmons, just quickly, I think you could probably argue that he should only be good right now based on what he's done at Tottenham. But for me, like I'm one of his biggest fans. I think he's going to be an absolute star. So yeah, I'm happy with him going in great.
Me too. And then Ash, again, another one that's just returned from injury. Obviously scored a great goal, one of our best goals of many good goals this season. Interesting one. What about Solanke?
Solanke. That's a difficult one, because I don't know.
I think it's between two.
I think he's good.
I think it's between good. I think it's between good and great, right? I
think he's good because
you can't say he's average. I don't think. So.
Yeah, no, I think he's good because I think what it is with Solanke, and he did show a glimmer of it against Man City. I need my striker to kind of create their own luck and create their own chances, make something out of little scraps that they're given or little opportunities that they get, and get your shot off quickly as a striker, as a forward, because you don't get that many chances, especially at this level in this elite league. So Solanke, for me, especially how he's come back, his pressing, his hold up play, the fact that he's a focal point, you're able to cross balls into the box, his strength, his agility, his speed. Not that he's a super fast player, but he's got a decent amount of acceleration, ball carrying as well. But I think where he could go up a level is that those finishes where he shows a lot more variety in his finishing, meaning like half volleys or volleys. I haven't seen like volleys from a Solanke where he just catches it sweet. He's not like a clean striker of the ball, in my opinion. But that's where he needs to go up in that level. But I think he'll get lots of goals for us for some reason now, because Johnson took away a lot of goals from him because he used to attack that back post, and that's something where Solanke used to be for Bournemouth under Areola. Areola made him more of a box striker. He said, "I don't want you holding up the ball anymore." Because it was Gary O'Neill at Bournemouth before Areola took over that made him do the kind of false nine thing that you're seeing now. But Areola was like, "No, I need you in the box. I want you higher up. I need you on the back stick. I need you around that penalty box, and I need you on that penalty spot." Yeah, so that's where his goals went up. So if we can see that at Tottenham, then I think he'll get a lot more goals, in my opinion.
Yeah,
his goal scoring record since he come back has been. Sorry, Bill. His goal scoring record since he come back has been pretty good as well, right?
Crazy,
in terms
been good.
I mean, for me, I would be borderline personally between average and good based on what he's done so far. But I have a high bar when it comes to strikers because of who we watch for so many years. It's hard to follow that, right?
And I think he has flashes of great sometimes, mostly good, flashes of average too. And I think sometimes, particularly last season, sometimes the service that he was getting was horrendous. But I think, he's had a couple of big he's been I think he's definitely been good since he came back from injury. There's no doubt about that, even though it's a very small sample size. But yeah, I can see the frustration because he's not been prolific and he's also not been our top scorer since he's been here as well. Johnson outscored him last season, Richarlison's outscored him this season. Coming on to one for you then, Connor. What about Radu Dragusin, who made his first start? You've been with us for 2 seasons now. There was big talk about him leaving in January. What about Radu Dragusin?
If we were doing a buy, cheap loan sell, I would definitely say sell. Because I don't think it's what we need, in terms of centre back depth. I'm gonna say poor.
Yeah,
it's a little bit harsh, but I think he has to go poor based on what he's done so far at Tottenham.
That's it.
Yeah, I agree. No, he's not for me.
I'll keep these down here, these poor ones.
I know people say he looks better in the back three, but he played in the back three. I know he wasn't playing consistently, but I know it was the left side as well of the back three. I get all of that caveat, but on the ball, yeah, he's a bit wooden. And again, on the turn, lateral movement, that's a big thing for me. He looks a bit wooden, Dyer-esque, my ask.
Yeah. And Ash, another player that we almost sold this January transfer window, and someone that we've not seen at all barely this season, Kinski. What can we say about Kinski? I mean, you can't make a case for him to be good or great because he's not even playing for Tottenham at the moment.
Binsky, Stinksky. Hey, put him in the bin.
Yeah.
He's good with his feet, but you need your goalkeeper. That's a bit harsh. But he's not that bad, but he's just, I'm going to put him in poor. He's young, so you could argue average because he's got that Champions League experience when he was playing for, what team did we get him from? It was that team he played in. Prague. It was Prague.
Yeah, Slavia, I think. Yeah.
Slavia Prague. Yeah.
Slavia Prague, yeah.
Yeah, he was their number 1 keeper, wasn't he? So he was doing well there. He was shot stopping, but once you come out the team and you don't get in regular minutes, you're gonna drop form, aren't you?
It's hard as a goalkeeper, isn't it? If you're not playing if you don't get a regular run of games,
and he's young as well, so he needs minutes, he needs rhythm, and he's not getting that. And so when we were 2-0 down, and Frank was panicking, he was laughing in the background on the bench. I saw that.
So Kinski's going in poor for sure. Connor, what about Pat Matassar?
Average.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think
if you'd have done it at the beginning of the season, I think he would have been in good. But
I think he's one you potentially sell if you want to do a proper midfield rebuild and you've got aspirations of competing on all 4 fronts, as the Lewis family obviously do.
Yeah, which I think is a shame because everyone loves Papsai. He's a lovely character, a great guy. But he's not really kicked on this season, which is why you saw, AFCON, he got 8 minutes in the tournament. He struggled to get in the side, which is a real surprise to me because at the beginning of the season, he was our star player for a spell, but it's just not kicked on. Kulusevski, we're going to keep an injured, obviously. Souza, we don't know about yet. Madison, we're keeping an injured as well. And then another polarizing one, particularly depending on the manager. What about Mattis Tell, Ash? Where are we going for that?
Average. I'm going to put average. Some people say poor. As a Spurs player, he's actually been poor as a Spurs player, but I think I think there's more in there. I was arguing the fact on my show, even though I don't rate him, that he hasn't had a run of games and you need
Yeah.
rhythm, as I just spoke about with Kingsky. And the problem is he thinks he's a striker, and I don't think he's a striker. I actually think he's more of a Son type, more of a wide forward, second striker, someone that runs off the shoulder or starts on the left and then comes in and then enters the box and gets his shot off. And he's only going to improve, in my opinion, through minutes, because you can see he's got shot power. Like, you can see he's got good technique and shooting, but he needs to learn what shot selection to choose. And then also he needs to learn how to disguise his shots, and he needs composure in the box. And you only get that through minutes and repetition and recognizing and understanding the pace of the league. If you're scoring against Leeds and then you're being taken out, or you do well against Man United and then you're taken out, and you score against Bournemouth and then you're taken out, how are you going to improve? Do you understand? And it's funny because he's got more goals than Odegaard and he's played less games, but obviously Odegaard's been given the thumbs of approval by everyone else. So, but yeah, I think he will go somewhere else. I think if he was at Bournemouth, like, him and Krupi would probably do well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But because he's at Tottenham,
definitely a good young player there, isn't there? I think again, he's another one that people forget he's only 20 years old.
There you go.
Right. So Tell average, and I completely agree with Ash. I think I'm a big fan of Tell. I don't think he's been given enough minutes whatsoever at all. But Connor, maybe a more tricky one to rate, because we've seen highs and lows at Tottenham. Pedro Porro, who is hopefully a short-term injury, so I'm not going to include him in injured. Where's Pedro Porro at?
Oh, this one's hard, because if you'd asked me before this season, I would have said good.
Yeah.
I think he's had a really bad season.
Yeah.
I think some of that is down to the fact that he gets overplayed, and that's why he's injured now, and he's played an unbelievable amount of games. I'm going to go average still, I think. I just think at the moment, I think based on this season, you're compromising too much in terms of defensively, and he hasn't given you the other side of that enough this year in terms of technical ability. And so it's got to be average, I think, for me. But if someone said, if you argued for good, I could accept that as well.
Yeah, I think at his best he's good, and sometimes even great. Like, there was flashes where what you said about your doggy, Connor, where he was getting in teams of the season and stuff. And there was a spell last season where people were saying that he's been our best player of the season, but definitely gone downhill this season. Perhaps because he's played every game for about 3 years running, and is injured. Now, Ash, this one seems to ignite the internet. Polarize the internet. I'm going to keep Richarlison injured, and I'm not going to include Brandon Austin, by the way, because obviously, not good enough. Palhinha. Now, this one is a real polarizer on the internet. That's why I'm going to go straight to you on it, Ash, because that's not an easy one to go for.
No, I'm going to keep him on. I'm going to keep him average, but he's had good performances. He's had very good performances, and it depends, because it's like with Paulinho, he's so good at breaking up play, winning those balls, and he's actually got goals as well. So I think the season he's having is good. So I don't know if I'm conflating the two.
Yeah, should we go for good? A lot of the chat.
I don't know if I'm conflating the two. So as a season, he's had a good season, and if we signed him, I'd understand it, because he's come up with goals when we needed it. Like Wolves, for example, we could have easily lost that game. He's come out, he's popped a bicycle kick. Like, who would have thought that was in his locker? Do you know what I'm saying? He's just done madnesses. Like the last game, he was playing centre back out of position, but he's playing a blinder.
Like, really well, didn't he?
So he's playing like, he's doing jobs, and I felt like Bentancur, who was taking his position, like, he kept getting, the short straw, because people were complaining, the double pivot was too safe. And I think that's why I was in that kind of fence where, for me, I don't understand why you're not braver on the ball when you're so brave off it. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Tottenham need that bravery. We need someone that's just gonna knock that ball forward and not rely on someone like Romero and putting his studs on the ball and then passing, and everyone's like, "Oh, Romero's throwing it down," but like Paulinho's not progressing it. Like even short passes, like sometimes it's an obvious pass forward, and this is me. I'm getting frustrated. It's a personal thing. I'm getting frustrated because I'm like, pass forwards. This, like, do you know what I mean? The goal is in the middle of the pitch. Why are we going around? Do you know what I mean? Why are we avoiding the obvious? Do you know what I'm saying? Because what?
It's funny with Paulinho, Ash. It's funny with Paulinho because obviously when he's played centre back, you know, either right centre back in the free or like against City in that second half, his passing forward has actually looked pretty good because he isn't under that pressure where he's got to receive it with his back to goal, and you know he's not very press resistant. And as you say, I think he's nervous turning on the ball.
I think it's the vision, the peripheral vision when you play in midfield compared to when you're playing completely at the back.
Different.
The pitch. And then, as you said, when your back's to goal, and it's a bit like I compare loads of players like this. Tell is another one. Back to goal, peripheral vision's not there. Do you understand? And that's why he drops down on his level. And I feel the same about with Paulinho. He hasn't got that 360 peripheral, and he can't get on the half turn on a 180. Whereas in the defense, he's like the first point of protocol, so he can play it forward. He can see the players. He can play a chip ball down the line. Do you know what I'm saying? Which Frank loves. He can even switch. I've seen him do it at Fulham. I've seen him switch play numerous amount of times. I've seen him do progressive pass. But at Tottenham, if we're going by Tottenham, this is why I'm conflated on the actual player versus what they're producing. I'm going to give a funny answer.
And I think that was my problem with signing Conor Gallagher. Not my problem with signing Conor Gallagher, but the thing is I think we do need someone alongside. If you're going to play Paulinho in your midfield, you need a passer alongside him. Maybe like a Curtis Jones or, you know, like a Ruben Neves or someone like that. Because it's not...
The good thing about... The other thing that people haven't really mentioned about Conor Gallagher, because I felt the same as well as you guys, but what really brought it home to me, especially in that Man City game, is when you're defending without the ball and you're trying to win it back, I think Conor Gallagher is one of the best.
Yeah, not really, because really good at the weekend, wasn't he? Not
because he's an energy bunny. Obviously, that has, you know, something to do with it. But for me, it's all about the distances. So how far away you are from your opponent, and if you're too far away, you're going to miss that ball. You're going to miss the tackle. You're going to miss the interception. You're going to be late, and teams will play through your midfield. But if you've got your distances right, then you know how to win that ball. And he did it for that goal where he crossed that ball in for Solanke. He beat two Man City players by getting his distance right, getting the angle right as well, because you've got to run at an angle. You see Solanke do it when he's pressing. He runs at an angle. That's also in midfield. You see Sarr as well. Sarr does it. He gets his distances right, and he gets that interception. He nicks it off the... So when I play football, that's the thing. I'm like, bro, how's that brother always win the ball each time? It's because they're reading the game and they're able to judge the angle, how to come and nip it and get on the blind side and win that ball. That's something that's not really spoken about by Conor Gallagher. And the last point is because he does it so well, he influences game state. He acts like a leader because other players will follow him, and then before you know it, the team's like 5 or 10 yards higher up the pitch because of his leadership off the ball. But I do agree with you, like on the ball, it'll be helpful against lower blocks to have a passer alongside him.
And I think that's a good thing about both Paulinho and Gallagher, is you could see them easily being moved into that leadership group. They obviously thrive on being a leader, which is what we've needed at Tottenham. So I'm definitely for both of them in general. But I would like to see another progressive midfielder come in alongside both of them. So Kevin Danso is injured, possibly out for the season, has been reported, unfortunately. Connor, another... Well, I don't think there is much fencing on this one anymore. I think his reputation has dived quite a lot. No pun intended. What about Vicario?
Yeah, I love seeing his mum in the number 8, but he's got to go into poor for me, and he's got to go. He's got to go.
It's been a bit of a disaster season for him, really, hasn't it, in terms of reputation? I think even in the Man City game, I think people are questioning his positioning for that Cherky goal. There's been countless errors. He doesn't seem like a happy bunny at Tottenham at the moment. Seems to be, I think it'd be best, and obviously as widely reported. And we know that when Paul O'Keefe came on, he said they are going to be looking for a replacement. So, that's unfortunate. Now, Ash, I'm giving you all the difficult ones because I know you're so good at the analysis. This one is a real difficult one. Odebear. Where's Odebear going?
Odebear.
I think this one is another polarizer.
It's a polarized one because he's been playing good.
Yeah, I saw a content creator get some stick for saying we should sell him. Where are your views on that?
No, we shouldn't sell him. I think. Do you know what? I actually don't think he's an average player. I think his season's been average though, because I think of late he's become good. Like over the last 3 or 4 games, you could argue he's been good. But as a season, it's been average. But I look at Odegaard and I get the player that he's meant to be. He's someone that can play either wing, and he can also play in the pocket. He can play in the 10. He can play in the midfield. What he needs to work on is using his body a little bit better, so he doesn't get pushed off the ball so easily. So there's a way to manipulate, because everyone thinks, go gym. You know what I'm saying? That's how you don't get knocked off the ball. No, it's about how you use your hips. Remember Hazard? Hazard used to use his bum a lot. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? So did Dembele. If you watch old tapes of Dembele, he would use his hip and his shoulders to kind of like get across the player, get across the marker. Messi would use his hand. He put his hands and create separation that way. So other different players and they use their body in different ways to protect the ball. And so sometimes with him, he's just got to learn when to kind of create that chance, that 1v1, because he can do it. But then sometimes he needs to learn how to combine. And I think that's where he was weak on that left-hand side. There was too many times he was trying to cut in on his right and players would work it out and nick the ball off him. And I remember when Kudus came on the left, the same thing happened to him, trying to come onto his right foot, come inside, and they would take the ball off him. And I'm like, sometimes when you're coming off the wing, sometimes combine, do 2 or 3 passes, use your players, 1 touch, 2 touch, and then that's how you create chances for yourself and others as well, because then you could do a through ball at the end of the action or get a shot off. Not always dribbling, not always 1v1, going the outside, going the inside. If you add that pass in, it adds another layer of, what's he going to do? And I think on that right-hand side, where he looks so much more comfortable, is because he's able to hug the touchline, he's able to drift in midfield, and he uses his weaker foot. His weaker foot, his left foot, it's got so much power in it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So much power in his left foot. So that's why I'm not putting him as poor. And I'm going to leave it as average, because I think
the chat seems to be in agreement that it's sort of in between average and good, isn't it? We've definitely
he just needs, because when I look, like I said before, people will say Tell's poor, but Tell's goal tally is a lot higher than Odegaard. Odegaard needs to get as a wide forward or an attacking player in that front line. He needs more goals for himself, right? His output needs to be higher, in my opinion.
Definitely. And Connor, the man of the moment to finish off, Romero. Where are we going for Romero?
Do you know what? He began in great, regardless of what he was like on the pitch for calling out the ball, mate. He's going in great.
He's got to go in great for it, particularly as he was opening bottles of champagne, apparently, that's been reported today, and saying this is...
All jokes aside, I don't think he's had a great season, because he's been...
we know he is great when he wants to be, though, don't we? When he's on it, there's no one better. So just in summary then, we have got Poor, we've got Basuma, we have got Muani and Poor. Then in average, we've got Gray, we've got Sarr, we've got Tell, we've got Porro, and we've got Odegaard. In good, we've got Spence, Udogie, Conor Gallagher, Solanke, and Palhinha. In great, we've got Van der Ven, Xavi, and Romero. Then Kudus is injured. Dragusin is in poor. Kinski is in poor. Kulusevski is injured. Souza, we don't know yet. Maddison is injured, unfortunately. Richarlison is injured. Austin is poor. Danso is injured. Vicario is poor. And Bergvall is injured. So Connor and Ash, to both of you guys then, judging the squad by what we've been left with in January, what can we expect to get out for the rest of the season? What should be the expectation there, considering there's a lot of poor or injured? There's not very much great. There's a little bit of good, a little bit of average. Ash, what can we sort of expect for the rest of the season then, do you think? Judging, given that this is what the board have left Thomas Frank with.
We've got 5 in good and 3 in great. That's quite good. That's 8. That's 8 players.
And do you think that means we're in a false league position at the moment? On a serious note?
Yeah, no, you could argue that because Man City showed us that these players do have quality because we managed to get it back to 2-2, right? And they're meant to be the best team.
And we've seen flashes all season, haven't we? We've seen little bits here and there. And the Champions, obviously,
look at our goal tally,
Champions League, for God's sake.
Yeah, we score goals. It's not even like we've struggled to score goals this season. So from different players, I know we haven't had high volume goal scorers, but they're showing glimpses of quality here and there. But interesting. I feel like Spurs play better when we're playing teams that like to play against us, or they like to allow us to have more room on the ball as well. So when we're not being
the Champions League a bit more.
Yeah, exactly. The reason why I mentioned that, because obviously we're playing Man United, Newcastle. They're not going to sit in a low block. Arsenal, obviously, it's a different game, but they're a lot more defensively rigid, so they're harder. They don't give up many chances, full stop, even though they are a high possession team. I think with Spurs, when it comes to the mid teams, this is where we struggle a lot. And looking at the profiles we have, I can still see glaring holes in the squad, which we didn't address. And so I'm not expecting that much to change between now and the end of the season. So we might move up a few spaces because we might get a few wins, a few shock wins, and people might get behind Frank a little bit because, you know, those wins might feel good. But I don't see us putting a run together where we're 3 or 4 games undefeated. You know, that would shock me if that happened. And I see it more of a maybe win 2, get a draw, or win 1, draw 1, win 1, draw 1, lose 1, lose 1. You know, that kind of vibe. But yeah, we didn't do enough in January, in my opinion. We needed bodies, we needed quality, and there's issues that were superseding from the summer window. So it was, for me, it's a big L to the board, and Thomas Frank may be a victim of it. And I don't know if he knows. That's the funny thing, because he's getting an extra staff member from Brentford. Physio. What does that mean for the summer? Does that? And I put this to my channel as well. I put this question out. I said, if Thomas Frank was to manage to finish at 8th, do you reckon he somehow keeps a job?
Yeah, probably. To be honest with you, probably. Just about.
I think he might, just because Vinay wants to be so patient, right?
Yeah,
as well.
I think that's the minimum that he needs, isn't it, to get back into Europe? Yeah.
And sometimes it's about trajectories as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, you know, to
finish
eighth,
and that's exactly where Arteta finished, isn't it? Which he obviously mentions. And then thank you very much to Rich for our first ever super sticker. So thank you very much for that as well. But Connor, I'll come to the same question for you. If we look at this, it is obviously, with those players at the bottom are in poor or injured, it is obviously very lopsided. There's a little bit of quality in there. We know that. Van der Ven, Xavi, Romero. What do you think are our realistic expectations for the rest of the season now, considering we're still in the Champions League, we're 14th in the Premier League, got no cups to really aim for? What do you think is that, you know, judging by the squad that Thomas Frank has been left with, do you think he's been thrown under the bus there a little bit by the board?
Yeah, he has. Definitely has. I think there is, I mean, there's a big problem here with how many, there's more players that are in the poor/injured than anywhere else because of the vast amount of injuries we've got, right? And I think that's the biggest issue for us. Not to use injuries as an excuse, but when you've got this many players out, it's clearly going to have an impact, right? So I think, I mean, at best you'd sort of expect mid-table with where we've been left. It's a shame because I don't think the quality of the league is that great, right? I genuinely don't, outside of Arsenal.
We're closer to Europe than we are to the relegation now, which is So
but you know, if we had done some more work in January before we had that fairly favourable run of fixtures, you know, we could be mixing it. it's in those European places. So I think it's another missed opportunity, unfortunately.
And we are going to wrap up in the next 5 minutes, but just going on to that squad because it does lend ourselves quite nicely. I know, Connor, we've had a little look at the Champions League. So we can make 3 changes, Ash, in between now and the next phase where we're hopefully going to play one of Juventus, Atletico Brugge, or Galatasaray. 3 players, but they've got to be swapped. So obviously, looking at that, we would say that, Connor, what's your color code in here?
Yeah, so red is sold, yellow is, on a fairly long-term injury. So this is where we were last time. So just for all the viewers, just to make sure everyone is aware. So you need to have up to 4 club trained players. If you don't have them, you lose those squad spaces, right? So we've only got 1, so that brings our total squad of 25 down to 22. You can then have 4 association trained players, or if you've got more than 4, they take one of the non-locally trained spaces, of which there's a maximum of 17. So when we first registered the squad, Solanke would have taken one of the non-locally trained squad places to take it up to 17. We had 5 association trained. So I think if we're thinking about swaps now, as Bill said, we can make 3 swaps. So Johnson comes out. Obviously, he's been sold. Let's just assume he's replaced with Gallagher. That's a pretty straightforward one. And then it's a question of who's your other 2 swaps. And I think for me,
who's in the equation? So Kulusevski's in the equation, possibly.
Well, no. Well, I don't think he's going to be back in time. Do you, Kulusevski?
No, probably not.
I think given he's not even training now,
We've got Dragusin in the equation potentially.
Dragusin,
Tell in the equation.
Basuma.
Is anyone thinking Madison or no? He's far off it. He's way far off.
It'd be a gamble, wouldn't it? It'd be a bit of a gamble. If we get through to the next round. So here we go. So we got Dragusin, Basuma, and Tell. 2 of those 3, is it?
Yeah. So for me personally, I think they're going to have to put another defender in because Davis is out and Danso is out. So I think Dragusin has to go in almost by default, just because you need to have another defender. Otherwise, you've got no subs behind Romero and Van der Ven.
I have a gut feeling that Thomas Frank is going to go Basuma over Tell. That's my gut feeling.
Yeah,
which I think would be very controversial. But what do you reckon? What do you think? I get the impression he doesn't rate Tell, which I think is a bit harsh. But what do you reckon? What do you reckon, Ash?
Yeah, I agree, man. I think he doesn't. I don't know if it's an attitude thing,
Basuma's been starting,
or or he just doesn't rate him, like he doesn't fancy him. I don't know if they've had a few off words. I don't know why he's keeping him around. If that is the case, if he doesn't rate him, he should have let him go on loan. But maybe they told him they're not going to bring anyone else in, so he was kind of forced to keep him around. So I think Tell will be taken out. He's been taken out many a time before, unless he does something during the league to change, fans and the management's mind. But I personally think, he comes out, and I mean, what choices do we have other than Basuma at the stage? There's not many other players, is there?
I guess you might argue that Palhinha, Gallagher, and Sarr all be in there is hopefully enough, but
Gray as well. And Gray as well.
That's 4 midfielders there.
I would personally bring Tell in.
I would all day long.
I think for me, the players that come out is so obviously Johnson comes out, Davis comes out, so then there's one more to come out. I think this Danso injury is going to be the whole season by the sounds of it. Because it sounds like he needs surgery, so you just take Danso out, don't you? Because there's a very, very slim chance you may get a Bergvall or Bentancur back.
And obviously,
if you get further.
And under 18 players, we don't have to register, do we? So Byfield would be in there straight away without being registered. And he's come on in the last couple of Champions League games. But so what do we reckon then? Do we think it's going to be Dragusin is coming in? And then who's going to miss out? Gallagher is obviously going to come in. And then who do we reckon? Tell or Basuma? What's your gut feeling, Connor?
I'm going to say he's going to bring Tell in.
Ash?
Basuma. I think Basuma might come in.
Yeah, it'd be. I think it's literally. I think it's this week that it gets announced. So it's one to definitely keep an eye on. I think if Tell gets left out of this one, it's probably his Tottenham career over. I don't think he'll be. I think he'll be sold in somewhere. That would be such a big blow to be gone to Basuma to go in ahead of you after Basuma has been, disciplined all the time this season. I think that'd be there's no going back from that, which I think would be a shame. But let's see what happens. We're a bit short up front anyway. We're a bit short of wingers, so Tell could make it in. And I think if he doesn't, that'll be a bit harsh for me.
Bill, I think what's frustrating about that though is this showed, and I saw someone saying, one of the reasons we might not have signed any players is because we couldn't register for the Champions League, and this shows we definitely had a space potentially, right? Because you could have just not done Tell or Basuma for that last one, or even not Dragic in, right? So to me, that is not an excuse either. That we couldn't attract players because they were worried about potentially not being able to take a Champions League space.
Yeah, I mean, there was even talk of Kinski going as well, which would then mean another one, wouldn't there? So, yeah, I don't think that was a consideration. I just think, as this whole show has been about, really, they were just inept. They were and they have left their manager short. They've left the fans short. But as Ash said to me off air at the beginning, he wasn't expecting much, and we didn't get much. So that's the best way to think about Tottenham windows, I think. If you don't expect much, then you can't get hurt.
No, agreed. And as this point is right, because if we get Europe, as you say, but Bergvall and Gray will both end up being B-list next year and then club trained the year after, or the other way around. So yeah, both of those wouldn't count towards the squad places. I don't know if anyone just saw this. We definitely made the right decision putting Simmons in Gray. He's just put this on Instagram, which I just enjoyed, which is he has absolutely made the most of trying to get into Tottenham culture, and he's put in this image of him trying to find out who Chaz and Dave is, which I thought was very enjoyable.
What a legend.
He's done loads already, right?
I absolutely love him. And I don't know if you saw him, in the celebrations after Frankfurt and in the celebrations at Man City. This guy loves it, doesn't he? He absolutely loves it. You've seen that slow-mo video of the goal as well, Solanke. The first goal, sorry. His out of the boot pass, that is just pure quality. What a player.
Scorpion King, boy.
Yeah.
Outside of the boot, that's not talked about a lot,
Yeah.
Outside Trivella, that was kind of cold. Yeah, man. I like that. It's got to be the new dance.
And then he got disallowed, didn't it? Which was a shame. But Ash, thank you so much for joining us, man. Obviously, this will be the first of many times if you'll indulge us, because we'll always have you on here. But where can people find you and your fantastic analysis videos?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Spurs Kings TV. Also on audio when Marlon decides to put it up. But yeah, Spurs Kings TV.
You're like me and Connor, innit? We do the rounds on loads of shows, innit? We're always around. We're on last one on Spurs and loads of other places.
This is it, man. But yeah, check us out if you want to see any analysis and stuff like that. That's what we do over there. But yeah, man, big up. Thanks for having me on, guys. Please make sure you do like and subscribe and leave comments on the Spotify. That's also helping to get seen if you put the comments down.
And we'll have to have you back on in summer. We'll do the same thing again and see if after the next Lewis family transfer window we're even better. We're any better. But we'll definitely get you on before then anyway, of course. Connor, anything to say before we go?
No, just massive thanks to Ash. Always enjoyable to be on with Ash.
Legend.
And look, I think hopefully we're going to try and do a show Sunday night, aren't we, Bill? I'm going to be feeling very worth aware because I'm going on a stag do to Budapest to scope out the Champions League final location.
I'm in Glasgow, so it's a little European tour for us, isn't it? But we'll be there.
Yeah. So Sunday night we'll come back both with no tan, probably looking paler as a result of the drinking. But yeah, we'll do that Sunday night, and then next week I think we got Martin Lipton from The Sun coming on next week as well, so that should be quite interesting. He's a Spurs fan, and obviously was the one who broke the story originally about Brooklyn Eric potentially looking to buy, so that should be good. But yeah, thank you so much for the support, and as Ash, please get over to Ash at Spurs Kings TV, and please do like and subscribe to this channel as well.
Perfect.
Cheers, guys. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Quiz.